there's nothing worse than walking in on your first day and just having no sense of direction as to where you should be going. Many people walk in, they get taught a new move every day, and so here's a move today, here's a move tomorrow, and do your best with it. The whole goal of our sport is to be able to submit your opponent. Okay, picture yourself on top mount against somebody, and you want to go for an armbar, but you know that if you go for that armbar from top mount and you lose it and you end up on bottom and maybe in side control or with your back taken perhaps, that there's no way you're ever going to be able to escape, right? The chance of you attempting that armbar drastically decrease because of the fear that you'll get held in a situation or submitted if you were to lose that armbar. So you end up just holding positions, you hold mount for the whole round, and then nothing ever happens. You kind of lose that sense of going into a match with the idea of, okay, I have to control this guy, but I also have to eventually submit him. So what gives you the confidence to open up and to go for attacks and try to go for submissions is your ability to escape both bad positions and submissions. So that if you have the confidence where you can escape, now you're in top mounted in an armbar, you can confidently go for that armbar knowing that even if you miss it, you end up bottom guard, bottom half guard, bottom side control, bottom mount with your back taken, with you in an armbar, yourself, the guy ends up and mount on you after you fail, and he gets an armbar, that you can either escape those bad positions or those submissions. Okay, so the first thing you should be looking at, which is the opposite of what most people tell you. Most people tell you how to attack first, is actually escaping bad positions and submissions. Okay, so from white to blue belt, you should focus on your pin escapes and submission escapes. All right, this will give you the confidence at later belts to be able to go in and actually attack your own submissions, knowing that if you end up in a bad spot, that you can escape and easily go back into your offensive attacking cycle. So from white to blue belt, you start by first learning how to escape and defend, and then from purple to black belt, that's when you focus on going in and attacking people. Okay, you have submissions, you have positions, guard passing, sweeps, things like that. All right, but without the ability and the confidence to escape bad spots, you're never going to have the confidence to go in and attack submissions knowing that you could end up in a bad spot.
Good. So Gordon, so kind of breaking down here, so what you did on your career, white and blue belt, you pretty much focus way more on escapes than attacks. And then purple, brown, and black, you kind of switch a little more to attacks. If you had to break down like belt per belt.
Yeah, that's what I should have done. It's not what I actually did. But when I started to train under John, I was a blue/purple belt when I started training full time with John, and my escapes were terrible. If I ever got into a bad spot, I wouldn't be able to escape. So John basically started teaching me as if I was a white belt, because when I started training with John, I was very bad at jiu-jitsu. So the first thing John taught me was escapes. And once I was confident that no one could hold me down and no one could submit me, that gave me the confidence to start going into attacks, because John started us with leg locks. So every time I would try to put an ashigarami in place, I would either get my guard passed or my back taken. People would crush me, or they'd take my back. And at first I was just getting held down with people past my guard or getting my back held for the round, and I was getting so frustrated that I couldn't escape. And then John was teaching us leg locks and escapes at the same time. So that I could have the confidence to go for leg locks, knowing that even if I got my guard passed, I would be able to just escape and go right back into attacking. So I did it the wrong way coming up. That's why it took me so long to progress from white to purple, brown belt. But then at brown belt, when I started to have that confidence and gain that confidence, my career really started to take off from brown belt until current date.
So if you would teach the young Gordon Ryan, you would teach him escapes as white belt, focus 80% on escapes. Blue belt, you would still escapes, or you would start switching to?
Yeah, so first positional escapes, then submission escapes, and then you start to build at blue to purple belt from not only escaping, but escapes into attacks. Okay, you have to remember there's offensive and defensive cycles. You can't just escape, defend, because then your opponent stays in an offensive cycle where every time you go to defend, they just keep attacking. So you're only just defending. It's no good. You have to get into a situation where you go into escapes right into attacks on submissions. Okay, that should be, obviously you have to learn some submissions. You can't just go all the way. You can't just spend 4 years from white to purple belt focusing on, not having any submissions, but your main focus should be on escaping, defending submissions, and then transitioning into going from a defensive cycle where you're going from bottom side control or bottom mount, and instead of just escaping, going right back into your own attacks, whether it be a sweep or a submission. The guy has your back, and instead of escaping and the up top guard, you escape and you go right into a leg lock, for example.
No, man, that's amazing.
To white belt get good, I think they just have to show up, just have to put in the effort, try to focus on using techniques in training rather than just fighting to the death, you know? Although that is entertaining for us to watch, two white belts fight to the death.
Yeah, but what are the techniques you should focus on? Like, what's the process? What does it mean to show up? Like, how much drilling, all that kind of stuff. Like, what if you were to optimize the first 6 months of a beginner? There's a lot of people who would listen to this and haven't tried. They've been curious. I have a lot of friends who are like jiu-jitsu curious. They're constantly looking for an excuse to start. I
think it's just got to be as simple as possible. You know, like we shouldn't be teaching more advanced movements. I mean, obviously in the grand scheme of things, there's highly advanced techniques and then there's slightly advanced. And I think trying to teach those guys real specific positions, even like real specific types of guard, is just beyond them. Mm-hmm. I think the best way to learn is through problem solving. And I think if you show the technique before they've discovered that problem, the learning is sort of held back. So I like the idea of using kids style games to show them a problem and then use the techniques to fix the problems they've just discovered. I think that's the best way to learn.
Can you give an example of a problem to show them before you give them the techniques? Like, what are we talking about?
All right, so say you wanted to teach posture in wrestling. You could create a game where the game might be get to a leg or get to two legs, control the leg, like super simple. But the constraint would be one guy is forced to keep an upright posture, and one guy is not forced, but he's allowed to keep a bent at the hips, lower posture. And obviously within that constraint, the guy with the better posture is going to have more success. He's going to have a better posture to secure a leg or secure both legs, and therefore you've demonstrated the flaws of bad posture without having to explain it to them before they really tested that out.
Okay, and then the result of that, you would realize that the bent over posture is better.
Yeah, you have that aha moment rather than just having it spoken to you.
You wrote, Craig, I'm a big fan of constraint-based learning, I guess was what you're talking about. I love presenting beginners with a problem before the solution. Like here, attempt to hold side control with no cues on how. Then I see how the guy got out and addressed issue by issue, crossface and hip control and so on. Okay. So what are some other examples, like side control?
Yeah, that would be excellent one. Side control. Like teacher, like obviously we say, oh, you secure a crossface so they can't turn into you. Much easier to have them try to hold someone down without explaining what a crossface is, and then use that technique to address the problem they've just encountered. So I think you could do that with a lot of areas of jiu-jitsu, like even more advanced, say 50-50, obviously a mirrored position where you both have access to each other's heels. Most people will stall out in that position and keep their feet crossed. I think a great constraint for both of them, you can't cross your feet. Now you have to learn how to slip the heel hook when they expose it and how to safely re-attack of your own. So the constraint is you can't be too defensive in that position. And I think the rate of learning increases.
Why do you think the rate of learning increases? Like, why do you think that works?
Because you encounter more problems. Say in that situation, they're going to get your heel a lot more in whatever period of time you allocate the drill for than if the legs are crossed. I don't think the hard part's splitting the legs to get to the submission. I think the hard part's practicing control while they're trying to slip it at a later stage, and then obviously trying to slip your heel when you're in more danger also makes you more comfortable in that bad position if you're used to doing it with open legs.
Yeah, I think that probably that style of teaching forces people to focus on, because it's so easy to fall into focusing on like memorizing a particular details of a technique without thinking like, why the hell does this even work? And exactly, if you don't have that, you get to focus on like, from like, as cliche as it sounds, from first principles, like how the hell did I get out of this? Like, why does this even work? Why does wrestling work? Why do you have a bent over posture? You get to like start to ask those kinds of questions, which is kind of interesting because it's not obvious to me that bent over posture is the right posture for jiu-jitsu, right? I'm confused actually about that. I don't know.
About the correct posture?
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu. Like, what's the right answer?
I think bent over posture is still good for jiu-jitsu.
Even with the judo and all that. Like, why are so many jiu-jitsu people, like, at a high level, the posture is higher up?
Well, I think wrestling posture is just a bit too low because it's not necessary, right? If wrestlers are like low enough to the ground where your hands could touch the mat, but in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of a mix between like wrestling and judo or Greco-Roman wrestling. So I think it's just a bit more lax, and it's bent over, but it's not upright, and it's also not super low.
Bit more room for error too, because obviously the jiu-jitsu guy's shot isn't going to be as athletic or as quick as a wrestler, especially a wrestler with shoes.
So it actually comes down to the fact that jiu-jitsu people, just on average, even at the top level, are not good at shooting.
I think so. Yeah, I think obviously, I mean, all the wrestlers in American stuff, they're starting super early, super young. You know what I mean? They've by the time they get to the same age we are, really, in our sport and stuff, they've spent much longer doing the actual sport than the average jiu-jitsu guy.
You were tasked with coaching a beginner, a hobbyist beginner. How would you help them become good in a year? What would be the training regimen? What would be their approach, mental, physical, in terms of practice to jiu-jitsu?
I mean, honestly, picking safe training partners and trying to understand the positions and not just freaking out. Like you might escape if you freak out, but you also might be stuck in something and you injure yourself. So it's like, I think if you can, it's just about longevity. You know, like if you can find a pace to train at and a like sort of intensity and the right people, you could potentially train 5 years without injury. It's really about how you move. If you are always moving in an explosive way, eventually you're going to do that from a position in which you can't move, and then someone's going to tear. And you also want to be able to trust training partners to not go too crazy, inflict too much pain. You know what I mean? It's like, I think I've managed to avoid a lot of injuries because I just never roll too athletically, explosively. I think I'm probably incapable of moving at that rate of speed.
So that's part of it, is the way you move, but I guess you also don't allow anybody to put you in a really bad position in terms of hurting you.
I let them put me in bad position, but I try to stay relaxed at all times. You know, that's the key here, is like, obviously you got the cheesy, keep it playful, but it's like, if you can remain calm in bad positions, that is a skill. That's your confidence, not in yourself, but that the other guy's incapable of submitting you. That's the ultimate confidence. You can give them whatever you want.
So the thing you want as a beginner is to focus on minimizing injury by relaxing, by not freaking out.
Yes, keeping it at a pace so you can understand what just happened.
The thing is, like, how do you know if you're freaking out or not as a beginner? It feels like
if you're panicking.
Yeah, that's a good. If you're, I mean, I see a lot of beginners kind of starting to breathe hard. They tense up. That's probably underneath that is panic.
Yeah, if you can make someone panic, you will fatigue them. It's the same. It's like even if you're higher level and you're worried about getting your guard passed, it's the panic that leads to fatigue and your guard retention. But if you're so flexible, you remain calm, I think it's because you're not panicked.
Fear is the mind killer. But also, you have one of the more innovative games in jiu-jitsu history. How'd you develop that? How do you continue throughout your career? How were you innovating? What was your approach to learning and figuring positions out, figuring submissions out?
I mean, financial motivation. If you can hit moves that no one else knows how to do, you can sell those instructionals. But also it keeps it interesting because it's like, it can get stagnant and boring, you know? Like a lot of people get to blue belt, they're good at one thing, they only do that one thing. I think it's finding creative ways to beat people. And sometimes creativity is in how they respond to it. So if you can find a humiliating move to do to someone, well, not even necessarily humiliating, but a move that is unexpected. When you get hit with something you don't expect, I think that is sort of really one of the most fun aspects of it. You know what I mean? Like, you train to stay better than the people you're better than. That's what keeps you in the game. And finding creative ways to beat those people is some of the most entertainment.
So that's just something that brings you joy, is by doing the unexpected.
Yeah, if you get swept with something that you don't think should work, I think that's fulfillment.
So your game is even a bit trolly. Interesting. So like, but what's the actual process of like with the Z guard, all the innovative stuff you've done there? How do you come up with ideas there?
I mean, you just studying tape. Just study tape and try to reverse engineer. Like if I see something or I train with someone and it feels, when you have those moments where you're like, oh, I don't even know what they're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can put someone in a position they don't understand, that's also where they panic. So it's like creating different ways to make people panic. But also, I mean, it's just innovation, like having fun with it. Like I guess the artistic aspect of it is fun. You can be creative in how you can beat people.
Did you say artistic or autistic?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Just checking.
This is point 2. We call an octopus guard. Across the board, I don't want you to think of it as a guard. It's not a guard, it's not a closed guard, it's not a half guard. It is a position that we are moving at all times. We're hitting tipping points, tilting points, we're making them chase us, hang on to us, shoot for submissions and pins that aren't really there. So again, although we're calling it Octopus Guard 2.0, try not to think of it as a guard, think of it as an ongoing scramble. That is a problem that is hard for them to solve, and we're going to have sort of answers for all the options and all the risks we take along the way.